What's going on, Flix Talkers? Welcome back to another review. Now, if you guys have been following my channel, especially lately, you guys know I'm not doing too many reviews just for the fact that I do see a lot of movies, new and old, and kind of pick and choose what I want to review and talk about either on lives or just separate videos. But this was a movie that was such a long time in the making, and because of the pandemic that we are still currently in, a lot of movies are being shifted around, pushed back, going directly to streamer, or are being released in theaters, but because all the theaters are not technically open, there are still some restrictions as far as limited capacity, but we're starting to slowly roll out to become normalized once again, which is a word that I throw around loosely because I feel like we're never going to be in the normal once again, at least for entertainment or in any other sense. But all of that aside, guys, I do want to get into my thoughts on watching Black Widow once in IMAX this past July 8th. 2021, guys, as well as watching it a second time on July 10th, 2021. So I'm just kind of giving you the scope just so you know that I've had time to digest this and check out more details either at home or in the first initial viewing. It's going to be kind of just a free-for-all, just some of my pros and my cons of this film. This is considered an origin story for Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, Natasha's character, guys, that we've known and grown to learn more and more about. I won't say grown to love, because there's a lot of you guys out there that don't consider her even a superhero or maybe even an expendable Avengers. And then there's some of those that are on the opposite side of the spectrum, the Marvel spectrum, that are like, she is a huge integral part to the MCU, and why did she get this movie a long time ago? So we're going to talk about all of this in my breakdown for Black Widow. It is going to be spoiler free, so don't worry. I'm going to kind of just allude to some of the pros and cons that I did like in this movie, once again spoiler free. But at the end, we are going to be talking about, in Marvel fashion, the post-credit scene that we did receive for this film. So sit back, relax, and if you guys have seen the movie, please be considerate of those in the comments and leave them spoiler free. All right, so let's get into my thoughts for Black Widow. And I also forgot to mention that this does follow the timeline during the events, either currently or directly after Captain America's Civil War. So if you guys haven't seen that film, I do advise you to kind of check that one out, just more from a, continuity standpoint. Even if you're not a fan, you can check this one out solo. It's a great solo movie. I will just kind of get that out of the way. But if you want to kind of go back and understand where she kind of fits in the Avengers verse, which other solo movies she was kind of just implemented in, and what was her role in those movies, I would definitely recommend checking out the last couple of Captain America movies, that being Winter Soldier as well as Civil War. But this does follow events directly after Civil War, as they do kind of talk about that Natasha is on the run and S.H.I.E.L.D. is after her. Alright guys, now starting off with my pros for Black Widow is going to be the opening of young Natasha as well as Yelena, her sister, her younger sister in this, and we kind of get an introduction to the family in Ohio 1995, and some things do happen that are pretty intense, which also leads to an opening sequence that I have never seen in a Marvel movie, at least not this dark and grim, and parallel to something that's actually real world, real life things that do happen out there that are very sick. And I will not go any deeper. You guys can go check it out for yourself. But it really sets a tone of a movie you're about to watch in a more dramatic, thrilling fashion, because as we know, this character is not really superhuman as far as ability goes. She is very tactical, and we'll kind of get into that more in my pros, but it does kind of set the motivation for these characters in the runtime of this movie. So I really did like that opening sequence once again, and the music that they use is a remake, I believe, of a Nirvana song, so that was kind of cool to see it in a modern fashion, though it's kind of set behind a dark, grim backdrop as well. Now, jumping to another pro of mine is the hand-to-hand combat. So we kind of flash forward 21 years, I believe, after that opening sequence, and we get to see Natasha as well as Yelena, as well as the rest of the Black Widow squad, which at first I was a little confused. Maybe it kind of slipped my mind, but I thought Scarlett Johansson initially was Black Widow, but it seems like this entourage of assassin women are Black Widow. It's kind of like a protocol Black Widow project that they are working on, and that was extremely cool because even though they're not on the poster and they kind of play the background, you do see glimpses of these female actresses kicking ass in assassin style, just really tactical with the guns, you know, hand-to-hand combat. Once again, they're very stealthy. They're kind of jumping from building to building, trying to get their target at whatever cost. And I really do like seeing that because it seems like they are fearless warriors, and I like to go in not seeing any reaction. You know, if they're chasing someone and, like I said, jumping building to building, usually for the most common folk like myself or just anybody in general, you kind of have a look of dread. You have some reaction on your face. They're really going into it almost robotic, and they are just going after their target once again. And I really did appreciate that because it kept me on the edge of my seat. It was very intense in those scenes. Now, another pro that adds on to directly what I just said, the hand-to-hand combat, are the action sequences, guys, and I won't go into detail exactly what they are. You see a lot of them in the trailer, so I will just say there is a Budapest car chase scene that was amazing. A lot of people are comparing it to some 007 type of car chase scenes, and that's totally fine. I think if you're an action fiend, you're gonna just appreciate all of the practical along with some of the CGI that you kind of see, which was very flawless. I mean, that just kind of adds to another pro of mine. Marvel really uses their budgets and polishes up on some of the CGI and motion capture, or even some of the digital work where they're applying Scarlett Johansson's face to the stunt woman that is playing her character. So it's just kind of a seamless look when you're seeing her kind of run, jump from building to building or obstacle to obstacle, car to car, whatever have you. You're seeing Scarlett Johansson doing this even though it looks like they've CGI'd her face onto a body double. And another huge action sequence that I did love in this movie is in the third act of the film, guys, where it's a sky fight scene. I will just say that because I don't want to allude to any spoilers or details of why they're fighting in the sky. It just held a huge chunk of the third act in the movie, and I was like, these are the Marvel superhero vibes that I was waiting for in this film. Yes, they're totally impractical because I understand Natasha is just a human, but at the same token, it adds to the fearless factor that I was talking about previous. And another pro of mine, guys, was the villain of Taskmaster. Holy crap. I didn't know anything about this character, though a lot of people tell me it's attached to this movie or it's attached to this comic. I don't read the comics, so I'm kind of just going in it, you know, as a viewer, moviegoer, and I really did like this character, and it was almost a huge force to be reckoned with in a slasher mode, so to speak, guys. This Taskmaster was out for blood with no reaction whatsoever. Just go in, fulfill its objective, and get out. And I really did appreciate that. And it was a cool looking suit once again. And they really promoted this character in the trailers, in the solo posters. And when I finally got to see what this character was about, it blew me away. And I was actually really scared of this character because they do talk about it in the movie as well as I believe the trailer, that this character can mimic whoever it's fighting's moves. So that just adds another layer to the scariness. And another cool character that I did like, guys, was Alexei, aka the Red Guardian, played by David Harbour. Man, this actor is so cool, fun, and multi-layered, man. I really enjoyed him in Stranger Things. I enjoyed his performance as Hellboy. That may be a hot take, but I did like his portrayal of Hellboy in the latest Hellboy franchise that we did get, guys. But he does play someone who in this movie is actually superhuman. I won't tell you his abilities or where he kind of fits in, but his character was fun. He was more of the comic relief. He was someone who was the father figure to Yelena as well as Natasha, and there was some heartfelt moments at times with him and the girls. And he has a cool jailbreak scene in there that you guys also do see in the trailer that I thought was actually a pretty cool sequence. And last but not least, guys, for my pros is the newest addition to the MCU, Miss Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova. Wow, man. I just got to kind of sit back. Her performance was awesome in this movie, guys. Once I heard she was joining the MCU, joining this movie, I was like, yes, there's no way they can kill off this A-lister. Someone that I really did love in Midsommar. I haven't caught Little Women or some of her other movies from the last couple of years, but man, Midsommar was all I needed to see to know that this woman was on the rise. She did not disappoint. She plays a younger sister to Natasha, and I really did like the chemistry. There's a lot of resentment going on without getting into any spoilers, guys. So there is a lot of tension, not only in the story, but between them. And I actually liked how that kind of unfolded and all of the story behind that, leading to all the motivation to work together for this common threat. And in the fight sequences that we did get from Elena, she was almost on par with Miss Black Widow herself. I was like, whoa. And I know she's putting on an accent for this, but it actually fit. It actually felt pretty fluid. She did her job. She's a great actress, guys, and I can't give enough praise for her performance in this movie. And I know I said that was my last pro, guys, but I gotta throw a nod in there for the director, Miss Cate Shortland. Man, I believe this is her first, huge film, and to be given a property like this, guys, a Marvel Disney property for such a character that a lot of people hold high, that's a lot on your shoulders. And I feel like she did a really good job, once again, with the dark nature tone stuff, as well as implementing a lot of the superhero stuff that you usually see in these type of films. So Cate, nod to you, and I can't wait to see your future works. All right, now jumping to my cons for Black Widow, guys. I gotta acknowledge some of the writing could have been left on the cutting room floor. Some of these scenes really didn't need to be in there. I won't mention specifically which scenes I really didn't like. They didn't add too much to the story or even to some of the characters. Some may disagree with me. That may be a hot take to the evolution or development of these characters that we see later in the film, but I just thought they could have been left on the cutting room floor. This movie isn't too long. I believe it's only 2 hours and 12 minutes roughly. I mean, if you're including all the credits and the post-credit scenes, but it's just a little over 2 hours. I still would have trimmed some of the fat. I just didn't believe it was integral to any of the plot or character development. So that was just a minor con of mine. Also, another con of mine, guys, was the plot. I feel like we've seen this in a lot of action movies, maybe action sci-fi even, where you have people that are mind controlled and you have to kind of unplug them Matrix style. So I feel like that's a cliche story, but I know it is a huge part to the backstory, origin story of Scarlett Johansson. It's just that unfortunately in the decades of movie cinema where these cliches are kind of prevalent, I feel like we've just seen it so much that by the time this movie came out, it's just not as original as we want to kind of claim it to be, if that makes sense. And another con of mine, guys, was Ray Winstone as Dreykov, who is technically our main villain. We get to see him in the beginning as well as later, 21 years down the line, in the third act of the movie. Now, I did look up this guy's resume because I know I've seen him before, and he always plays like a gangster type of character. And that's exactly who he plays in this movie. Not any more, not any less. Just a scumbag, someone that's trying to take over the world. And he didn't really fit anybody that would be a standout villain, just kind of your typical want to take over the world type of guy. No real motivation behind it, and there was no explanation for his madness. And because of that, I hated this character. Not in the fact of I hated him, I wanted to see him die. He was a scumbag. He did some scummy things, and you'll see that in the beginning as well as the end of the movie, guys. But by the time we reach the third act of the movie, there's a scene where him and Scarlett Johansson are talking face to face, and you just don't care. You just really don't care for the backstory of why he's kind of doing this, because to me, he's a villain that I could care less about. I cared more for Taskmaster in the whole rest of the movie than when we got to see Dreykov and his lair. I just didn't care at that point. I didn't care for the interaction, though there was things around that third act that I really did care, that really razzle-dazzled me. The interaction between them two, I just didn't care. And talking about not caring, last but not least for my cons, guys, is the character of Mason, who they tried to add in there as a love interest to Natasha. it just wasn't happening. Basically, his character is the, I can get you that, you know, anything that you need. There's always that guy, which is kind of funny because you always wonder in action movies, not only superhero movies, how are they obtaining all of these guns, all the transportation, the tickets to fly all over the world at a minute's notice, right? How are they getting this? And Mason is the guy that gets this type of stuff. That being said, once again, there's no backstory to him, so I don't care about him. They kind of allude to him being a love interest to Natasha, at least he's into her, but it literally goes nowhere, and I could have done without seeing him on screen, I'll just say. And all that being said, guys, I believe that my pros outweigh my cons for this one. So I will be giving Black Widow a solid 4 out of 5, saying I think it was a great addition. I've definitely seen worse in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, guys. And I will be adding this one to my collection on 4K when it does come out. Alright guys, so what did you think of my thoughts on Black Widow? Have you seen it yet? Let me know in the comments below your overall score. And did it meet up to the potential of all the hype, all the delays? Did it fizzle out for you? What were your thoughts? Once again, leave it down below. And if you guys did appreciate my thoughts for Black Widow, let me know by hitting that big thumbs up to like the video. It's the best way to support the channel, and it does spread these videos out to those that aren't subscribed. And if you yourself aren't subscribed, consider doing so today and hitting that bell notification to always get alerted about future videos. All right. So that was my review, guys, spoiler free, but right now we are going to get into some spoilers, and I'm only going to be talking about the post-credit scene because my spoiler review can go on for hours. So I only want to talk about the post-credit scene for now. So if you guys have not seen the movie, now is the time to turn it off. All right, so I'm going to give you a countdown warning. 3, 2, 1. All right, so in Marvel fashion, we get an awesome post-credit scene with Yelena that takes place in the year 2023, guys, after the events of Endgame. So if you guys have been following along, which I'm sure you have, we know that Natasha Romanoff is now deceased. And it shows Yelena visiting her grave in Ohio, which I thought was a beautiful nod because they do talk about in the Black Widow film that she wants to go home to Ohio. She really loved her couple of years that she did spend there. So I thought the scene was very heartfelt. We got to see that Yelena does remain as an assassin, and it's going to solidify her in the MCU. As well, we get to see a woman standing right next to her, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, named Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. That's a mouthful, I know, but aka Val for short. We don't know her involvement. We know that she's not really with S.H.I.E.L.D., but she is part of some organization, either that she runs or once again that she might be part of, that does work with assassins. And it seems like she's worked with Yelena before, as she kind of presents her with a tablet for her next target, saying, do you want to go after the person responsible for Natasha's death? Which were then shown a picture of Hawkeye. I was like, whoa, yes, Mr. Feige, take my money, my friend. As he had talked about, Kevin Feige had talked about, the Disney Plus shows are gonna be incorporated with the movies. So if you guys have been following the Disney Plus shows, you know that after Loki is gonna be Hawkeye with Haley Steinfeld as well as Jeremy Renner playing Hawkeye, and this is gonna be our tie-in. I hope that we get to see, obviously now we get to see Florence Pugh as Yelena in that. I don't know how much of her we're going to see. I don't know if she's going to be the main villain. I don't know if she's going to be one of them, but I do know that she is mentioned alongside Hawkeye. So I think that was a really, really cool nod. However they're going to spin it, this Val character, she's not really explaining too much that Natasha did sacrifice herself. Hawkeye wasn't responsible for that, as she voluntarily kind of did that. They were fighting to be the sacrifice, if you guys remember in Endgame, but Val is spinning it that Natasha was killed by Hawkeye. So that does lead to the next chapter and the motivation for her going after Hawkeye. So I thought that was an awesome post-credit scene, guys. You let me know your thoughts. Who do you guys think this Val character is? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below, guys. But I did have a great time with this movie. Once again, a 4 out of 5. Where does this stand for you, and what are your overall thoughts on Black Widow? I would love to hear them and get a dialogue started. And once again, guys, if you've made it this far, you guys probably have seen the movie already, or at least heard all the spoilers about it, I'm sure. And if you you guys did appreciate my thoughts, please once again hit that thumbs up if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that subscribe and bell notification for more. Those are my thoughts, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Until next one, I'm gone. Peace.